Hey y'all, it's your girl Akuria, aka AK, and today I'm going to be discussing what I'm calling having the unsafe parent. What has prompted this conversation for me is that I was recommended to read a book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And baby, I feel like this book was written for me. It has been very enlightening as well as validating, and I feel like some of you might be able to relate to the different topics that I've picked out to talk about and to share from my own experience. And if you read the book, you might have some things you want to add to the conversation in the comments below. So, yeah, I think it's important to have these conversations and also checking out the book because we get to put language to things that we have been experiencing as or within our childhood and even as adults still, because that's who it's geared toward. And also for me personally, it's allowing me to identify different ways that I'm showing up as a parent myself, because the truth is every parent is going to be some source of problematic behaviors or some sort of trauma even for their children. And if we are lucky enough, we will be able to sit with our children as they get older and have these conversations with an open heart. So let's see. I got my little whiteboard. The first thing that I wanted to talk about that stood out to me is the emotional intimacy from with emotionally immature parents or lack thereof, avoidance and rejection. That's something that made me light up so much because I could not ever really figure out why it was so challenging, even to this day, to be close in a real deep, intimate way with my parent. And I was raised by a single mom majority of the time, and I'm the only child. And I know there's this whole thing about only children, daughters, and moms, and I feel like it's kind of unfortunate that it's so common that it has a ring to it, and people know something in their head that they can assign to daughters of mothers, especially only children. So I know more recently I've been noticing like trying to share different TV shows or movies to sit and just be with one another is a source of hell no ish stuff for my mom. It's like, girl, no, I'm watching this right now. We'll watch it later. We'll watch it later. No, I'm not watching that. And it was so frustrating and it seemed so simple, right? It's like, okay, well, everybody's an adult. Everybody can make their own choices. But to me, there's something to it because it's like, it's no problem when we're sitting and watching something that you're comfortable with and that you watch all the time. But when it comes to us, me trying to share my interest and have that time, it's like, no, it's not happening. Also, getting deeper with certain emotions or going to my parent for things, um, it's rare that I'm getting some sort of comfort. Things are oftentimes glossed over. And I found that to be the case as well as a child. You may have found that too, going to your parent as a child. It's like, I'm not dealing with that shit. Like they don't want to hear it, they don't want to deal with it. And something that the author of that book pointed out was that a lot of children found that when they would get sick, that's when the care would be there from their parent, because for that parent who was avoidant or rejecting of emotional intimacy, it was safer for them to show up for that child in a physical way, so that they can nurse them back to health. And that was my experience too. That's when I found that things were a lot more, there was a lot more compassion, you know? Otherwise, a lot of my emotional needs were met with being shut down. And this book also talks about how, in a lot of the previous generations, a child was to be seen and what? Not heard. Okay, zip it. We don't want to hear it. So that's just a little bit of what I wanted to share as far as, an example for uh, parents who avoid or reject emotional intimacy, and just a little example of how it kind of shows up in adult life at this time for me. Y'all let me know what you got going on. So we go ahead and cross that off. Another thing that was mentioned in this book was roles. Parents who are emotionally immature thrive when there are roles in place, because now I just show up and do this thing. And because I'm in this role, this is what I get to dictate and say. i.e., I'm your mom, I'm your dad, I'm the parent. What I say goes. Why are you questioning me? I'm the mom. Why are you talking to me that way? I'm the mom. I'm the dad. I'm the parent. You are the child. Stay in your lane. This is your role. Play it well. If you're a great daughter, then fuck your boundaries. What are you talking about? Like, okay, I hear you, and also I'm the mom, so what I say goes. I'm the dad, so what I say goes. Or if you were raised by grandparents, whoever. So that was very fascinating to me because that is a speed bump that me and my mom definitely hit a lot, where it's like any pushback that I'm giving and any reaction that I may have to her actions is kind of swept to the side or dismissed and or labeled disrespectful, etc., because that's my mom. So no matter what that person does, that parent does, or that caregiver does, you don't really have the right to respond or react, especially if it's a rah, 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 because you're the child, they're the parent, even into adulthood. And that for me just doesn't work. And I feel like it's very dangerous and very minimizing, especially as a child. We all can relate. There's very little room for children to navigate the world and advocate for themselves as is. But then you add emotionally immature parents um, into the mix, and that space gets that much smaller, pretty much non existent. So that's what I have for roles. And then the last one is being parent centered. Parent centered. She talks about that in the book, to where she gave an example where a client of hers was talking about how the phone calls and conversations with their parent was so draining because all the parent did was talk about them, and they never got deeper. They didn't really care much to hear outside of what that person did today, how work was, or something like that. They didn't have much interest in what that adult child was talking about. And I can definitely relate to that, in the way that the conversations can go long. We can even get sort of deep if it's centered around my parents' emotions and what they have going on, their work day, their grievances. But as soon as we're getting into my stuff, that shit is cut. It's cut short, cut dry, fast. Here's I said what I said. Here it is. Get over with. Or I found it challenging to share certain interests that I have, and I feel like my parents, her capacity has grown a little bit over the years because I'm just me. I'm gonna keep talking, um, but it's still very minimal. But it's almost as though I'm expected to be there to help her work through what it is that she has going on, her needs and desires and things of that nature. But things typically stay fairly surface, fairly parent centered. So yeah, that was a thing that stood out to me, of most of the interactions are parent centered. And if the parent is an externalizer, was a term, I won't go too much into that. It's in the book. She explains it very well. But they tend to go outward and see everyone else as the source of problem solving for them, or everything needs to shift for them, as opposed to going inward and reflecting. So that places everybody in this role of do what I say. This is what I need. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to watch. This is what and it's a lot about them and a lot less, if at all, about anyone else. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to get on here and share some of those things, because that's just something these are some things that are standing out for me. This book has been, like I said, very validating and giving me language to what I've been experiencing that I couldn't quite put my finger on. It's just been the norm. And I'm just looking forward to breaking certain cycles and placing a lot more value on my peace and my emotional needs and reciprocity. And also trying to flesh out what it is that I'm carrying over from this relationship as a adult child, or, to an emotionally immature parent, um, and how I'm showing up in my relationship with my children, because some of that shit is just gonna be there, right? It can flow into that. So I want to kind of name it, and let's reverse engineer this thing, turn it around, so that I can show it better for my children as well, and also in other relationships, romantic partnerships, friendships, etc., etc. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all. I hope you lovely people have a wonderful and blessed day. Mwah. Catch y'all soon.